The bread I am about to show you, I have been making it since I was 8 years old. My grandmother stood behind me in her kitchen in Lancaster County, and she took my small hands and pushed them down into the flour for the very first time. That was a long time ago now. And in all the years since, I have made this same bread almost every single week for my parents, for my husband, for my 7 children who used to come running into the kitchen the moment they smelled it rising. 4 ingredients: no kneading, and a loaf so soft that the crust cracks when you press your thumb into it. Warm, right out of the oven on a cold Lancaster morning. Today, I am going to teach you exactly the way she taught me. Nothing left out, not one step hidden. Because this recipe was never meant to be a secret. It was meant to be passed on. Let me start where my grandmother started, which was never with the flour. It was with a story. She used to say that a woman could tell everything she needed to know about another family by the bread on their table. If the bread was dry and pale, the house was rushed, the mother tired, the days too full. But if the bread was tall and golden, with that soft give when you tore it, then that was a home where somebody had taken their time, where somebody had cared enough to wait. Bread does not lie, she told me. Bread tells the truth about the hands that made it. I did not understand her then. I was 8 and I wanted to eat, not listen. But I understand her now after 40 years of my own kitchen, my own children, my own tired mornings when the last thing I wanted to do was measure flour before the sun came up, and I did it anyway because she was right. Now, the ingredients, and I want you to listen closely because half the reason people fail at bread has nothing to do with skill. It has to do with what they buy. You need flour, regular all-purpose flour, the kind that comes in the paper sack, nothing fancy, nothing bleached, white as snow with a dozen words on the label you cannot read. My grandmother used flour from the mill down the road, ground from wheat that grew in fields she could see from her back porch. You may not have a mill down your road, that is all right. But get the plainest flour you can find. The fewer things done to it, the better your bread will be. You need water, warm water, and I will tell you exactly how warm in a moment, because this is where most people ruin the whole loaf before they even begin. You need yeast and you need salt. That is all. 4 things: flour, water, yeast, salt. There is no butter in this dough, no eggs, no sugar, no milk. My grandmother would have laughed at a bread recipe that called for all of that. She would have said, that is not bread. That is cake pretending to be bread. This is the real thing. The bread that fed families through winters when there was nothing else. The bread that sat at the center of every table in every plain home for 200 years and more. Let me talk about the yeast, because this is the part that frightens people, and it should not. Yeast is alive. That is the first thing you have to understand. It is a living thing, and like any living thing, it can be woken gently or it can be killed. Most people kill it. They do not mean to, but they pour water that is too hot, thinking hotter is faster, and they scald the yeast dead before it ever has a chance to do its work. Then they wonder why their bread sits flat as a stone. Here is how my grandmother taught me to test the water. And she never once used a thermometer in her whole life. You run the water over the inside of your wrist, the soft part here, where the skin is thin. If it feels warm, like a baby's bath water, like a bath you would put a small child into without a second thought, then it is right. If it feels hot, if you flinch even a little, it is too hot. Let it cool. Warmth wakes the yeast. Heat kills it. Cold puts it to sleep, and it will not rise. You want that middle place that gentle warmth and your own wrist will tell you every time better than any thermometer ever could. So you take your warm water, and I use about 2 cups for one large loaf, and you pour it into a big bowl. The biggest bowl you have. My grandmother had one crockery bowl, cream colored with a blue ring around the rim, and it was so large I could have taken a bath in it as a child. She used that same bowl for 50 years. It cracked once near the end, and she wrapped a wire around it and kept using it because a bowl that has made 10,000 loaves of bread is not a thing you throw away. Into the warm water, you sprinkle your yeast, about 2 teaspoons, a little more if your kitchen is cold, and then you wait. You do not stir. You do not touch it. You wait 5 minutes, maybe 10, and you watch. And if your water was the right warmth and your yeast is good, you will see it begin to foam. Little bubbles at first, then more, until the top of the water looks like the head on a glass of root beer. That foam is the yeast waking up. That foam is life. And when you see it, you know your bread is going to rise and you can breathe easy. If you wait 10 minutes and nothing happens, no foam, no bubbles, nothing but flat water, then your yeast is dead. And I am sorry, but you have to start again with new yeast. Better to find out now in the bowl than 3 hours from now when you pull a brick out of the oven. Now, the salt, just a spoonful into the flour, never straight onto the yeast. This is important, and it is a mistake I see all the time. Salt is the enemy of yeast if they touch too soon. Salt will slow it down, hold it back, and if there's too much of it, too close, it will do to the yeast what the hot water does. So you keep them apart at the start. You mix your salt into your flour all through it so that when the flour meets the yeasty water, the salt is spread thin and gentle and does its proper work, which is to give the bread flavor and to keep the yeast from running wild. Bread without salt is a sad thing. I made it once, forgot the salt entirely, distracted by a child who had fallen and skinned both knees, and the bread came out looking beautiful and tasting like nothing at all, like paper, like air. My husband ate 2 slices to be kind and then quietly reached for the apple butter. So do not forget the salt. A woman with 7 children forgets things, but try not to forget the salt. Here is where the no kneading part comes in. And here is where I promise you this recipe is easier than anything you have tried before. You take your flour with the salt mixed through it, about 5 cups. Though I never truly measure anymore, my hands know the amount, the way your hands know how to button a coat without looking. And you pour it into the foaming yeast water, and you take a wooden spoon and you stir. That is all. You stir until there is no dry flour left, until it all comes together into a shaggy, sticky, messy dough that looks like nothing you would want to eat. And it will look wrong. It will look too wet, too loose, too sticky to ever become bread. Trust it. This is exactly right. My grandmother's dough looked like this every single time, and her bread was the best in 3 counties. You are not making a smooth ball. You are not kneading it on the counter for 20 minutes until your arms ache. You are stirring it in the bowl 60 seconds, maybe 90, and then you are done. The stickiness is what makes the bread soft. The wetness is what gives it that tender crumb that tears instead of crumbles. Dry dough makes dry bread. Wet dough makes the bread you remember from your grandmother's table. So resist the urge to add more flour. I know you will want to. Your hands will feel that sticky dough, and every instinct will scream at you to fix it, to add flour until it behaves. Do not let it be wet. Let it be sticky. That is the secret nobody tells you. Now you cover the bowl My grandmother used a clean flour sack towel, damp, wrung out so it was not dripping, just moist, laid over the top of the bowl. You can use a towel or a plate or anything that keeps the air off the dough without pressing down on it. And then you set it somewhere warm and you leave it alone. This is the hardest part of the whole recipe, and it has nothing to do with your hands. It is the waiting. You have to walk away. The dough needs somewhere warm and still out of the draft. My grandmother set hers on the back of the wood stove where it was always a little warm but never hot. If you have a warm spot in your kitchen near a window where the afternoon sun comes in, on top of the refrigerator where the motor keeps things cozy, that will do. And then you wait an hour, maybe two, if your kitchen is cool. You are waiting for the dough to double, to rise up and fill the bowl, soft and domed and full of air. And you will be tempted to peek, to lift the towel every 10 minutes, and you can a little, but mostly you should just let it be. Bread does not like to be watched. It is like a shy child. It does its best work when nobody is hovering. So go and do something else. Hang the wash, weed the garden, sit down with a cup of coffee for the first time all day. The dough is working whether you watch it or not. When you come back and the dough has doubled, risen up, soft and full, you are going to punch it down. And I mean that. Punch it one good fist right into the middle and watch it sigh and deflate. My children used to fight over who got to punch the dough. It was the best part of baking day, that one satisfying moment when you drive your fist into that pillow of risen dough and it gives way with a soft breath of air. It sounds like a small sigh. Whoosh! All the air goes out of it, and you fold it over on itself a few times, gently right there in the bowl. And then you shape it. For a loaf, you shape it into a loaf and you put it into a greased pan. For rolls, you pull off pieces the size of an egg and roll them round between your palms. My grandmother greased her pans with lard, but butter works, or oil, whatever you have, just so the bread does not stick. And then one more time, you cover it and you let it rise again. Not as long this time, half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, until it has risen up over the top of the pan, domed and ready. This second rise is what gives the bread its final softness, its lightness. Skip it, rush it, and your bread will be dense. Give it its time, and it will be like a cloud. While that second rise is happening, you heat your oven good and hot. My grandmother had a wood-fired oven, and she judged the heat by holding her hand inside the door and counting. If she could hold her hand in there while she counted to 4, but no longer the oven was ready, you have it easier. Set your oven to a good hot temperature, hot enough to brown the top quickly, and let it come all the way up before the bread goes in. A cold oven is another way people ruin good bread. The bread goes in, it should hear that heat, it should feel it right away and start to spring up in the first few minutes. That spring, that last burst of rising in the heat of the oven only happens if the oven is truly hot when the bread goes in. So do not open the oven door before it is ready. Let it get hot. Let it stay hot. And when the bread has risen over the pan and the oven is roaring, you put it in gently and you close the door and you wait one last time. Now, the whole house is going to change. I want to prepare you for this because it is the reason I have made this bread for 40 years and never once grown tired of it. About 20 minutes in, the smell begins. It starts faint, just a warmth in the air, and then it grows and it fills the kitchen and it moves down the hall and up the stairs and into every room of the house. There is no smell like it in all the world. Baking bread, it is the smell of home. It is the smell that pulls a sleeping child out of bed on a Saturday morning, that makes a tired husband stop at the kitchen door on his way through and close his eyes for a moment. My children are grown now, most of them with children of their own. And every one of them, when they come to visit, the first thing they do when they walk in the door is stop and breathe and smile. Because I have bread in the oven, I always have bread in the oven when they come. It is how I tell them I love them without saying a word. My grandmother told me that too, though not in those words. She said, feed people and they will always come home. And she was right. She was right about so many things. You bake the bread until the top is a deep golden brown, not pale, not blonde, a real rich brown color, like the color of a horse's coat in the summer sun. And here is how you know it is done, the way my grandmother taught me, and it has never failed me once. You take the bread out of the pan and you turn it over and you knock on the bottom with your knuckles, like knocking on a door. And if it sounds hollow, a deep hollow sound, like knocking on an empty barrel, then it is done. If it sounds dull and heavy, it needs a few more minutes. That hollow sound means the inside is cooked through, all the moisture turned to soft steam and air. Knock on the bottom, listen for the hollow. It is the oldest test there is, and it works every time. And then the hardest weight of all, you have to let it cool, at least a little. I know. There is nothing on this earth that smells better than fresh bread. And there is nothing you want more than to cut into it right that second, steaming, and slather it with butter that melts before it even reaches the edges. But if you cut it too soon, while it is still hot all the way through, the inside will be gummy and the slices will squash flat under the knife. Give it 20 minutes, half an hour, if you can bear it. Let the inside set. And then you can cut that first slice and you will hear the crust crackle under the knife and you will see the steam rise up and the crumb inside will be soft and open and tender, and you will put butter on it, real butter, and you will take that first bite. And I promise you, you will understand why I have made this bread every week for 40 years, why my grandmother made it every week for 60, why plain women in plain kitchens have been making this exact bread with these exact 4 ingredients for longer than this country has been a country. Let me tell you something about that first loaf you make. It might not be perfect. I want you to know that now, so you are not discouraged. My first loaf, the one I made all by myself at 9 years old, without my grandmother's hands guiding mine, came out lopsided and a little dense on one side. I cried. I was so proud and so disappointed all at once, the way children are. And my grandmother picked up that lopsided, dense, imperfect loaf and she cut a thick slice and she buttered it and she ate it right there in front of me. And she said it was the best bread she had eaten in years. It was not. It was a mediocre loaf made by a 9-year-old. But she ate the whole slice and asked for another. And she taught me something that morning that had nothing to do with bread. She taught me that the making matters more than the perfect. That a loaf made with your own 2 hands, even a poor one, is worth more than the finest bread bought from a store. So if your first loaf is lopsided, if it is dense, if the top cracks strange or the bottom browns too dark, eat it anyway. Butter it and eat it and be proud. And then make another one next week and another the week after. Because that is the only way anybody has ever learned to make bread. 1 loaf at a time, 1 week at a time. Your hands learning slowly what my hands know now, what my grandmother's hands knew, what her grandmother's hands knew before her. There is a rhythm to bread that I want you to understand because it is the thing that has kept me sane through the hardest seasons of my life. Bread cannot be rushed. You can rush almost everything else. You can rush the cleaning, rush the errands, rush the answer to a child's question when your patience is thin, but you cannot rush bread. The yeast will not be hurried. The rise takes the time it takes. And there is something in that, something that slowed me down again and again over the years that made me stop and wait and simply be present in my own kitchen. When my mother was dying in the back bedroom of our house, that long, hard winter, I made bread every single day, not because we needed that much bread, because I needed something my hands could do while my heart was breaking. Something slow, something certain. The measuring, the waiting, the warm smell filling a house that had grown too quiet. Bread carried me through that winter, and I have seen it carry other women through their own hard winters too. There is a reason this recipe survived 200 years. It feeds more than the body. Now, let me give you a few things my grandmother told me that you will not find written in any recipe. First, bread likes to be made on the same day each week. I do not know why. My grandmother could not explain it either. But she made her bread on Friday always. So there would be fresh bread for the Sabbath and the days after. And she said the bread came out better when it had a regular day, a rhythm, a place in the week. I make mine on Thursday. Pick your day and keep it. And I think you will find she was right. Second, save a little of your dough if you can, a small piece tucked in the back of the icebox, and add it to next week's batch. The old bakers called it a mother, a bit of the old dough that carries the life forward into the new. It is not necessary, but it deepens the flavor. And there is something lovely about knowing that this week's bread carries a little of last week's inside it and the week before that back and back. Third, and this is the most important thing my grandmother ever told me about bread. She said, never make bread when you are angry. The bread knows. I laughed when she first said it. But over 40 years, I have come to believe it completely. When I make bread with a peaceful heart, it rises high and soft and perfect. When I make it in a temper, rushed and slamming the bowls around, it comes out heavy and wrong. Maybe it is the science of it, the way anger makes you rough with the dough, impatient with the rise. Or maybe the bread really does know. I have stopped trying to explain it. I just make my bread on Thursdays with a quiet heart, the way she taught me. I think about my grandmother every single time I make this bread. She has been gone many years now, but when I sprinkle the yeast into the warm water and watch it begin to foam, she is right there with me. When I punch down the risen dough and hear that soft sigh of air, I hear her laughing behind me. When I knock on the bottom of the hot loaf and listen for the hollow sound, I hear her voice telling me, listen, listen. That is how you know the people we love do not truly leave us as long as we keep making the things they taught us to make. That is what a recipe really is. It is not just a list of ingredients. It is a way of keeping someone alive. Every loaf I bake is a conversation with a woman who died before most of you watching this were born, and now I am passing her bread to you. Which means that when you make this in your own kitchen with your own hands, she will be there with you too. A woman you never met in a county you have never seen, reaching across all those years to guide your hands into the flour for the very first time. So here is what I want you to do. This week, before the week runs out, I want you to make this bread. 4 ingredients: flour, water, yeast, salt, warm water on your wrist, foam in the bowl, sticky dough you resist the urge to fix, 1 rise and then another, a hot oven, and the hollow knock on the bottom. Do not wait until you have the perfect pan or the perfect flour or the perfect free afternoon. My grandmother made bread in a kitchen with no running water and no electricity and 11 mouths to feed, and her bread was a glory. You can make it in yours. And when you pull that first loaf out of the oven, golden and hollow sounding and filling your whole house with that smell that means home, I want you to cut a thick slice while it is still just barely too warm and butter it and eat it standing right there at the counter. That first slice belongs to you. You earned it. And then save the rest for the people you love, because that is what the bread is really for. If you would like every recipe I know, all the breads and the pies and the soups and the preserves that my grandmother taught me and her grandmother taught her, I have gathered them all together into my kitchen field book, and it is waiting for you. Down below this video, 100 recipes from Lancaster County, going back to 1720, written the way I would tell them to you if you were sitting right here at my table. And if you are new to my kitchen, if this is the first time you have found me, come and sit with me a while. I share these old recipes every few days, the food that kept plain families fed and warm and together for 200 years and more. Subscribe, and we will make them together. There is always room at my table for one more. Until next time, God bless your hands, God bless your kitchen, and God bless every soul who gathers at your table. Now go and make your bread.